In January of 2017, I noticed that my right side of my face was feeling numb to the touch and cold, actually, when you'd press on it, almost like a Novocaine shot. Now we're in the summer of 2017, and I'm at the movies, and I'm watching the movie, and I'm having trouble understanding what they're saying, so I'm cupping my right ear. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I know because of heredity on my dad's side, by the time I get to my 60s, I might suffer some hearing loss, but I'm not in my 60s yet. I said, darn it. So I sloughed that off. Well, now we're in November of 2017, and just a few weeks before Thanksgiving, I start to notice I'm getting headaches, back right side of my head, and I don't get headaches, or rarely. And also, I notice my taste buds are off. I'm having trouble unless something's really strong, sweet or salty tasting. And I notice that this facial numbness is starting to move towards the center of my face. I thought, okay. And then the hearing thing, I thought, all right, who do I go see? I thought, well, I better go see my ENT. So I told him my symptoms, and he said, have you ever had an MRI? And I said, no, you're going to get one because I have a hunch. So I go in for the MRI results. He walks in, closes the door, and the first words out of his mouth are words you only think you're going to hear in a movie. He says, I wish I had better news. And I looked at him and I said to myself, did I just hear this right? And he said, you have a schwannoma, or what we call an acoustic neuroma. It's one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. I think it's been in your head about 10 years. You have to call Dr. Babu at the Michigan Ear Institute right now. I'll give you his information, and you have to take the MRI and show it to him and get this taken care of.
An acoustic neuroma is a benign tumor that affects the hearing or balance nerve and usually presents with some typical symptoms of hearing loss, ringing in one ear compared to the other, and it can lead to dizziness or imbalance or vertigo sensations. If it gets very big, it actually can cause facial nerve weakness on the one side, and then it can also become life-threatening if it becomes a very large tumor.
And I said, but I have one other thing to tell you. And he said, what's that? I said, you need to know what I do for a living. I'm a musician. I'm a concert pianist.
So when you have a one-sided hearing loss and you haven't lived with it, it can create some issues for any patient. If you're a professional musician, I think it raises the stakes a bit, and that was his appropriate concern, as was our concern when we were treating him as to how aggressive to be.
Dr. Babu explained to me how he and Dr. Jacob, who is part of the Michigan Head and Spine Institute, work in tandem to make the miracle happen.
Dr. Jacob and I have a great working relationship. We manage patients in a way that we use both of our expertise to the utmost ability. And so in taking out a tumor as complicated as this along the facial nerve, to be honest, the last thing we want is a facial nerve problem in a patient who's a professional musician on stage, let alone the issues with hearing loss. So we want him to come through the surgery as unscathed or without the least amount of complications that can occur.
They open me up, and Dr. Babu assesses what he does, what's going on. And in my case, he told me afterwards that the MRI didn't show the entire size, that the neuroma was larger than either Dr. Jacob or Dr. Babu thought it was from the MRI.
After Dr. Babu performed the exposure, I performed the tumor resection, and that involves removing the tumor off the brainstem and dissecting it off the facial nerve.
But Dr. Jacob is so skilled that he was able to preserve the entire right facial nerve, so I have 100% facial mobility. The day after surgery, I was able to walk unassisted. That was highly unusual. But the doctors say that because of music and what I do, that my brain was constantly rewiring through those 15 years, so I didn't have a lot of balance issues. So when I sat down at the piano and I started to play an excerpt from Rhapsody in Blue, which is one of the pieces I'm well known for, it felt pretty good. I didn't hear it the same way. I liken it to, I used to hear in Technicolor, now I hear in black and white, because I don't have hearing anymore, but that had to happen to save my life.
With very large acoustic neuromas, it's common that patients, by the time they present to us, have poor hearing, or if they have what we consider to be serviceable hearing, quite often that hearing needs to be sacrificed to remove the tumor and decompress the brainstem. And it's very often, especially in those who have serviceable hearing, they're quite concerned about how will they accommodate to all that. And someone like Kevin, whose entire line of work depends on his hearing, how he's accommodated really speaks to the fact that patients accommodate really, really quite well.
I gave them a CD of my piano playing Gershwin, because I hear that sometimes they listen to music in the surgery room. So it was handed to them, and when Dr. Babu started his first few hours of surgery, he listened to it. And then when it was Dr. Jacobs' time to come in, Dr. Babu looked at him and said, "You gotta hear this. So I'm playing it again while you're working on Kevin." So not only did they work beautifully together, but they listened to my piano playing, and that meant so much to me when I heard about that, because they truly had a full picture of who they were working on, and hopefully it inspired the two of them. I can't stress enough what a team they make.